Hi there, I'm Malcolm Graham Wood, and it's nice to be back at Core Finance TV for another interview. Today's guest is Peter Levine, Chairman of President Energy. Welcome, Peter. Nice to see you back in the chair again.
Thanks.
Back in the studio. As I always do, I'd just like to, for those people who don't know too much about President, a quick snapshot of an overview of the company would be great.
President is a production and exploration company which is working in Argentina. We've got exploration in Paraguay. We have production also in Louisiana, in America. And we are profitable. Our turnover has exponentially increased over the last year. And we're looking forward to a good 2019 and beyond.
Excellent. Before we go any further, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that, there are a lot of UK companies in South America at the moment. You're in Paraguay and in Argentina. But given that the amount of work you've been doing in Argentina in the last couple of years, it would be worth hearing your views about the Argentine economy and how things are going with that respect for a company like yourselves.
Well, Malcy, I've got to say this, and I'm saying this with a really straight face.
Yeah.
We come across a lot of investors who are generalists, maybe, or pros, who look at Argentina and say, don't like Argentina, it's a bit unstable. You've just got to look at what's happening in this country to realise that Argentina is fine. I've worked in a lot of countries in the world, such as Russia, where we've come across many more obstacles than in Argentina.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be in Argentina. I think it's somewhat hypocritical to look at, for investors, simply to look at one area and disparage another. Everywhere has got its good points and its bad points. But from our point of view, we work around the system. We like Argentina. Sure, it's got its issues, but the bottom line is we're very happy to be there, and we're making money.
Yeah, and you've made acquisitions there. You've done successful wells there. You've sold oil in the country and everything else. So I can't argue with that one bit. When you last came in last year, you were reasonably circumspect about the acquisitions that you made, the Puerto Prado and Los Bases, and now they're completed. I think the best bet is you tell us about how that all went and what your plans are for that particular acquisition.
Well, we're looking for critical mass, and we've got critical mass. We've got critical mass in the Neuquén Basin, which is the right address to be. We had 2 concessions which we acquired in late 2017, and they've worked very well, as you can see.
Yeah.
Our exit rate from those 2 concessions was over 3,000 barrels a day of oil equivalent, principally oil. Now, these 2 concessions which we've bought, which are basically contiguous with the boundaries of our existing concessions, give us strategic access with our own pipeline, which is for gas, which is 60 kilometres of pipeline. It therefore unlocks our gas assets, which we've already got from our first 2 concessions, and these 2 concessions have got very interesting possibilities for further exponential growth in the right area, which is Neuquén Basin, and also it enables us to pivot more towards gas from oil. So at the moment we're probably 95% oil, and what I'd like to do is bring that down to have a more balanced portfolio to weather, of course, the issues on price and such like. So you'll be able to see that this year.
Excellent. I'm going to come back to that, but obviously it now looks like, quite correctly, in the southern part of the country you've got this exposure, and so the next question is clearly, it was an exceptional year. You personally, in your last RNS, you consigned it to history, saying, that's that, we've done that, but that's history now, and we're going to move forward. But it's important to actually tell us about Puerto Flores and so on, and also the drilling campaign, which to me looked like it was way better than you expected. You found primary and secondary targets. You've got other targets up your sleeve now and everything else. So first of all, 3,300 barrels a day. Talk us through how that drilling campaign went and compared to your expectations to a certain extent.
Well, throughout last year, with the 2 workover campaigns and latterly the drilling campaign, we did perform ahead of expectations. Our target was always going to be 3,000, and we achieved that. Could we have achieved more? Yeah, I think we could. I think we learned a lot of lessons. It wasn't perfect. We did it on time, on budget. Could we have done better? Yes. We're now applying those learnings to the next drilling campaign and the next workover campaign. But you're absolutely right, Malcy. That's history. You know, okay, it's fine. We can allow ourselves a few seconds of saying, great, we got it. But you're only as good as what you do now and what your plans going forward. And we've set a high bar for ourselves, but we're setting an even higher bar for this year. So learning lessons, done well, done higher than expectations, but we've got to raise that bar much further this year.
But you more than doubled production, and of course your existing production from before you moved into this area, and having doubled the production and a bit more. How do the revenues look now? Because I remember middle of last year you were talking about $2 million a month and so on. So these revenues must be creeping up quite nicely now.
Yes, even though the oil price, of course, has suffered.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. So you're actually, and this is in common with all oil companies, and it will be disingenuous to say anything otherwise than that. Sometimes you've got to run faster to take the same, but we're going to run much faster. And as I said to you, we're pivoting towards gas as well, which helps.
Yeah.
But the revenues are as we are looking for. We've already said what our revenues are, in the region of 45 to 50 million for last year. That's not, we don't believe, going to disappoint. I can't make any forecasts.
No.
But for this year as well, we're looking for an uplift. Of course we are. And we're looking for to maintain our margins, because it's one thing doing turnover and it's one thing doing barrels, but you've got to watch your expenses and you focus on margins.
Yeah.
And that is what we're also looking at. So it's significant growth, but also control of expenses and costs.
And I know how rigorous you are about it. I can't think of anyone more rigorous in the industry than you on that front. I want to take you to task on something, I mean, in terms of booking reserves and resources, because, I was in on that conference call, and you were quite strict, actually. You said that people were expecting to see quite a big increase in booked reserves and resources, and actually you're being pretty conservative about that, from what I gather from, listening into the call, saying, I'm really only going to book stuff that we're producing and is P1, absolute certain. Was I getting the right message from that, or tell me how you're planning?
No, you're
because
right.
normally you expect to see, any company like this with successes and various things, they whack up the reserves and the resources as quick as they could.
The most important thing is producible reserves. And that's why I'm pleased to concentrate on 1P reserves, which is proven reserves. Probable of find, they point to potential, and we've got lots of 2P. 3P is also interesting, possible, because that shows further development potential. And we have got lots of resources, which we don't mention specifically. We don't make a big thing of exploration. I say to people, I say to investors, I say to analysts, do not value our exploration as anything. Put a zero in front of it, because that's what I do. We are going to be looking at our exploration areas, for example, Paraguay, but our reserves this year is focusing, the report which is going to come out before March, is going to focus in Argentina on proven reserves. And proven reserves in the Neuquén Basin, where we've already said there's going to be a significant increase, because of the increase in value. So it's value reserves.
And I have to say, I think that's absolutely spot on, because, the point about a lot of people say is that, no, the market doesn't give us any value for P2 and P3. And you're saying that's absolutely right, because we haven't discovered them yet.
Well, it's not about discovering them, it's a matter of producing them. It's producible reserves.
Right. You mentioned gas earlier on, and I said I'd come back to it. Obviously, Estancia Vieja is the place for gas. And part of that acquisition was, as one or two of us spotted early doors, was not just the fact they produced, but you've got the infrastructure and the pipeline and everything else. Why don't you walk us through what you bought in the acquisition and the field, and it comes to the fact that you've said in your presentation before that you are planning to not only power all your fields in the area with the gas from Estancia Vieja, but possibly sell gas as well into the open market.
Right. Well, at this moment in time, with the benefit of the pipeline which we acquired from the latest acquisitions, from Estancia Vieja alone, we're powering Puerto Prado field. We're also going, in a few months' time, probably 6 months by the time we get all the infrastructure in place, to be powering all our fields with Estancia Vieja gas, and we're also going to be selling electricity which we generate back to the grid, which is really important. So that is a good profit earner, which is, to us, I don't care how profit is made. We're running a business, and we want to be more integrated in terms of an oil company. We want to be looking at the finished product, and if you've got gas, one of the finished products is selling power. And
So,
you will see us
right.
more pivoting towards that as well, not just delivering natural gas through a pipeline, but also delivering power.
Right, so that's two things there. So first of all, I can see where I slightly got the question that I asked wrong in the call for a few weeks ago, because there's me thinking that you're actually just going to you're going to sell gas into the gas system. So the question I asked was about gas prices in Argentina, and even at the beginning of this interview, I'd have said, oh, now that Peter's talking about increasing the percentage of gas in the mix, he wants to sell more gas. So the question is, to a certain extent, how much gas will you be selling and how much for? But more importantly, you have got the infrastructure to be able to turn the gas into electricity and sell gas into the system. So how does that work, and how profitable is that?
Well, what we're doing is we're leasing generators, big industrial generators, put it onto the Estancia Vieja field, and those generators will provide electricity. We're laying an electricity line overhead, 16 kilometres, to our Puerto Flores field, where we have got access direct to the grid, and that electricity will power Puerto Flores. It will also go back into the grid. The excess gas will go into the grid.
Yeah.
We've also got gas going through the pipeline, which we've acquired, into Puerto Prado, which will power Puerto Prado, because we've also got a generator in Puerto Prado. We then go to the next stage, which is shipping gas through the extended pipeline, which we've acquired, through to Las Bases, through to the off-takers, as it were. Las Bases is a potentially major gas field. It was a gas field previously. It was doing something like 4,000 BOE of gas. It's got a big gas compression unit which needs some expense on it. But in the intervening period, we are expecting to start producing gas from Las Bases within the next 2 months, within the next, in fact, month, we hope. And then, so we've got gas to exploit in Las Bases, new wells potentially, certainly new wells to exploit in Estancia Vieja. So that's why I say about gas that it's not simply gas which we're selling as offtake, but it's gas to power our fields, and it's gas to generate electricity. And hopefully we'll be increasing that power generation. So initially it will probably be about 2 megawatt, in excess of 2 megawatts, between 2 and 3 megawatts, which we will be putting into the grid.
That's important. So what's the size of Las Bases compared to Estancia Vieja in terms of the field, in rough terms? Is it twice as big, about the same? Or?
Las Bases potentially has got very significant. As I said to you, Las Bases was doing over 4,000 BOE.
Which is way bigger than the Estancia Vieja.
700,000, 700,000 cubic meters, something like that. So it's got great potential, exponential potential in terms of gas. At the moment, we're not producing much gas. We've got associated gas from Puerto Flores, which we're selling down a gas pipeline. And as I said to you, we're going to be opening the rest. The key is Estancia Vieja is a potentially very significant gas field, as Las Bases. That's why we made these acquisitions. We didn't make these acquisitions for the production it was.
No.
We made these acquisitions for the infrastructure, which allows us to exploit the gas.
Yeah. I'll come back to, before we finish, about any further acquisitions and so on. You wouldn't let me go away without asking that. Well, I wouldn't allow myself to go away. But I would like to know the plans for drilling for this year. I mean, obviously, having had the successes in Puerto Flores, people are going to say, are you going to drill more there? We know you've got work over and other opportunities in that area. And obviously, from what you just said, you're going to be doing work in Estancia Vieja and Las Bases. So what's the plans for this year for drilling and in all its different ways?
Before the end of Q2, you'll find us doing a not insignificant workover program on currently shut-in wells, both in Puerto Flores and in Puerto Prado. You will also find us starting to drill wells. we hope, in Las Pasas.
Yeah.
But certainly during the course of this year, you'll find us drilling in Puerto Flores, using the interesting lessons that we've learned from this current drilling campaign. You'll see us drilling an exploration well in Paraguay, where we now have significant belief we can certainly contain costs.
Yeah.
And we've left our best prospect there to last. And we, as I said to you, Las Pasas will be drilling. So it's a mixture of drilling and workovers. But we're not simply interested in increasing our total production this year by 1,000. If we simply get to 4,000 barrels a day by the end of the year, I'm not going to be happy. No. And none of us are.
So I'm going to come back to Paraguay in a second. But so what's the, you're not going to tell me this, but what with the drilling budget, what's the budget for drilling holes and doing workovers and all the rest this year? What's the, how are you funded? I'll ask it another way. You must have had lots of money in from your recent production. You always tell us that you're fully funded and the business covers its own costs. So, but come on, tell us how it's funded for all this.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to tell you what the budget is.
No.
And frankly, I don't know myself yet.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had a proper budget meeting, because what we're going to do is download everything. In terms of funding, yes, we've got to live within our means. Could we actually increase our capital expenditure if we had more money? Absolutely we could.
Yeah.
Could we spend it in the right direction in terms of short-term or medium-term profit? Never mind cash flow, but real profit, then the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to be so indirect in response.
No,
you
but
would
I mean,
expect nothing more from me.
No, I wouldn't expect any more from you, but we know that you're going to be putting a lot of money down in the various areas. You are going to be putting money down in Paraguay. You mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I get questions a lot about Paraguay. They say, has Peter forgotten about Paraguay? It was in the old days. It kept being put on the back burner and everything else. You're giving us the indication that Paraguay is now coming to the front burner, and you're going to have a look at it again and maybe actually drill something.
The sheer scale of the potential is so great, and the fact is that we left for reasons which we've got to say mea culpa. The best well and the most obvious well until last location means that we will be drilling Paraguay. We're not going to leave Paraguay without drilling this. It would be stupid not to. The potential is great. We're not going to be throwing money away willy-nilly. You've said, yes, what you said is right, but other people have said that I've got a fixation about Paraguay. No, I haven't.
No, I wouldn't. No.
My fixation is running a good business, making money and material growth. And Paraguay is just one of the features in this. We've got significant resources, and as I said to you, we don't make a lot of noise about it, simply because we don't feel we need to. We don't want to draw focus away from the real potential of our existing production. If it comes in, that's magnificent. It will change the company again. But the fact is, we've got a lot to change our company right now with what we're doing.
Fine. Before I go, I wanted to just to ask two questions or three questions. One is that the USA, Louisiana, was supposed to be sort of non-core. You made a small acquisition last year. From what I can gather from what we talked about, this is just tack on when something comes up. What's the position about Louisiana?
Yeah, it is. It's tack on when it comes up. The fact is that there's great potential there. It's within our area. We can manage it. Any asset needs to be looked at to run it, right? People say, are you going to sell? The bottom line is, the first thing you've got to do is run a successful business. You've then got optionality. In America, we want to run a successful business. We're making money. We believe we can make significantly more money in proportion to what we're making already in America. This has come up. It's got great potential. We're going to be starting drilling there in April, and we'll see what happens. The key to everything like we're doing is operatorship. Because to us, that's important. We've got operatorship, although initially we've only got 20% interest. Let's see what happens. But we want to bulk up America, and if we bulk it up and get more, then the potentiality to sell and get greater value is much better.
Excellent. I said I'd come back to M&A just briefly. I know you're not going to tell me much, but you probably you must be looking at stuff that you've continued to look at in the same area as the previous acquisitions that you made last year. Have you got things on the cards? You are going to add to your portfolio, aren't you?
I think you winked at me then. Well, you're right. You're rightly anticipating what I'm going to say, because I'm not going to say much.
Right.
But what I would say is there is a definite intention to grow both organically and by way of acquisition. Look, frankly, it's a great platform from where we've come from, but we recognise that if we're going to be retaining the public company status, we've got to deliver more in terms of significantly more in terms of what we're doing, in terms of profit, to make it an attractive investment, to increase the liquidity in ourselves. Otherwise, frankly, Malcy, there's no point in us being a public company.
No, and to be honest, I asked you before, are you going to take this company private? This was a time when you hadn't had the big successes and so on, but you've got very supportive shareholders. Obviously, you own a lump of the business. Traders and one or two other people own big lumps of the business, and I know they're happy because most of them are buying more. Things have changed dramatically in a really difficult time for the oil and gas sector, with the oil price falling 30% in a quarter. You've bucked the trend. It's only the beginning of the trend. I know that's what you plan. The final question is how do you see it in 12 to 18 months' time? When I asked you this question 6 or 8 months ago in this room, you said, I can't tell because, we may have to take the business private. Now things seem to be much more on fire at present. So how do you see it for 12 to 18 months?
Oh, we'll increase this business. We will expand this business. We'll make it more profitable. We'll make it much more successful. We recognise the need, as I said to you, to have exponential growth. But as how the public markets treat us, that's a different matter. I think we've got to keep a weather eye on this and see what happens. Never say never for anything. I do not rule out anything. But all I will say is this, Malcy, whilst ever we're a public company, we will do our best, not just to increase the value of the inherent value of the company, but to try and get it across, get the message across even better to shareholders as to what we're doing, where our plans are, and where the story lies. And if we fail because of it, then we can look ourselves in the face, look our investors in the face and say, we've tried. But we're a bit way off that now. We've got things to do. Let's just see. But we'll keep a weather eye on that.
You've come a long way. And finally, Leeds United have an Argentinian manager. And how exciting is that? Even with spies in looking at other teams' training camps with cameras and everything else.
Yeah, well, everybody hates Leeds except the people who love it. And I happen to love Leeds. What more can I say? We'll see again. Just like us, we'll see where we are in May.
It's been great to see you again, Peter.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Malcy.
It's been Malcolm Graham Wood. Today has been my Core Finance TV interview. I've been joined by the chairman of President, Peter Levine. It's been delightful to see him here today again. Thank you very much for watching and look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye now.